Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Hello, how are you? Now this week I'm not specifically covering astrology. I'm covering a thing that when I was training in homeopathy we used to call it practice management, and it's a similar thing in your astrological practice if or when you commence it, or if you're already in one. And what will definitely happen, there's no way of escaping it, at some point you'll do a reading for someone and there will be something tricky that has happened to them, and it's discovered in the chart or they tell you about it, and now you're dealing with a critical situation for your client. So the question always is, what should you do about it? What could you do about it? What can be done about it? Now, I have mentioned before that it's truly useful in your practice to have some sense of other types of therapy that might exist that might help your client depending on what it is that's going on for them. And I always like to make referrals to clients to charities. Now, I can't speak for what happens in other countries, but in the UK there are, I can give you the numbers. For 24, the number was 170,080. And so the figure quoted for the number of charities in the UK is usually about 170k. But there are also a number of charities, so the number of charities is high because there's things called non-profits. So the figures roundabout, so no one really knows for sure, but the total figure for UK non-profits, and this is 2024, is about 0.5 million. So about 500,000 charities exist in the UK, and these are approximate numbers. So England and Wales is 360,000, Scotland is 45,000, Northern Ireland is 7,205, making a total UK charities 412,282, social enterprises 76, total UK non-profits 488,619, and I say registered charities 170,000. Anyway, whatever it is that might be going on for your client, there is 99% chance of there being a charity that can help them. So when I used to work with clients face to face and locally, I knew and still know all the charities local to me that could possibly help people. So drug addiction or alcoholism or grief and death and dying and healing and different therapies, etc. Because I work in the therapy world, so I've come across a number of different treatments that people can have. I'm a therapist myself, so I can sometimes treat my astrological clients. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to be reading from the Consulting Astrologer's Guidebook by Donna Cunningham. I don't think anybody's written a book that is better than this. And this is just for you in your practice. Were you to come across a client that is in a bad state, how can you help them? What more can you do? Now, this is assuming, of course, that you're working one-on-one with people in the capacity to be able to assist or help them in some way, as opposed to doing readings at live events or functions, or but even doing that, I've done big gatherings for people where they want to have a psychic in the corner of the room doing readings and stuff, and even there, in a great big room with music playing and stuff going on. People, or it's like they go to church, almost they'll be confessing, oh, I'm having an affair, what should I do about it? And they're only having like a 10-minute reading. You've got to be able to not look shocked, keep your voice down, because the people in the queue standing next to the person who's having the reading and their mates, and they've had a couple of drinks, are probably going to overhear if you're not careful. What should you do, etc., etc. And these are things that you're going to come across. As an astrologer, no matter what capacity you work in, even if you're doing financial astrology, you're going to be working with people's feelings and their lives, and lives are messy. Things happen to people, and they happen all the time. And nobody, very rarely, books a reading that isn't studying astrology. Now, so this is somebody who's not like yourself that's learning it. Very rarely do people book a reading and just want to know about their charts. There's something underlying motivating them to come to see you. Maybe a present transit that's happening, and they want to know why, and they want to know how long is it going to last. Now, obviously, in the how long is it going to last thing, you are going to know the answer to that, because you're going to know how long a transit lasts for. So you can say, oh, well, you're in a bad place at the moment, but the Saturn transit you've got going over your Ascendant will be finished in 3 or 4 months' time, and the pressure will be off a bit. Now, I also need to remind you that when you're working with clients, you need to think what quality or modality their sun sign is, and also the modality quality of their moon sign. The mutable signs will live in the past, yesterday. The fixed signs is today, and your cardinal signs is tomorrow. So the cardinal signs will be mostly and nearly 99.9% of the time focused on what is going to happen tomorrow. How is this year going to be? I'm sure I get more cardinal signs booking in January to know how the year's going to be than the mutable signs, because they're worried about what happened yesterday. And I can safely say that is right across the board. So it's either the sun sign or the moon sign of the person is going to be focused either on past, present or future. And actually it's a little bit more difficult to deal with the now astrologically. So somebody's coming and they're a fixed sign and they're in a difficulty at the moment. Yes, you can tell them that it will finish because the transit's happening and stuff, but they want to feel better right here, right now, in the consultation with you. It's not sufficient for them to feel better tomorrow. So all your fixed signs, so that's Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus and Leo, want to feel better right now. So getting them to describe what's going on and maybe, blah, blah, blah. Talking about it might help. The other thing I need to keep reminding you is do a short introduction to counselling concepts, diploma or qualification of some sort. You don't have to train to be a counsellor. That's a very, very lengthy process, but knowing a little bit about what happens and what will happen with your client, and how to be able to talk to people, not even to talk to them, how to be able to listen to people so that they feel heard and understood, which is so important. Okay. Now, so I'm now on chapter 4, Finding Resources for Your Clients, page 87, and I've skipped forward to 91. So this episode today is because of what I'm finding in my practice at the moment. Obviously can't talk patient confidentiality, etc. But I am working with and have worked with a number of people over the last few weeks that are under enormous amounts of stress for various different things. And this section of the chapter is headed Motivating the Client to Seek Treatment, because they're coming to see you and you're, inverted commas, an astrologer. You are not qualified in the things that the help that they might need, which is why Google the charities, find the ones that are nearest to where your client lives, suggest them. They might not take that suggestion, and we'll read what Donna tells us. So here we go. Later, you'll learn about developing a resource network. Let's begin, however, by discussing how to make an effective referral. Unless clients are approached with skill and sensitivity, they may never make use of your recommendations. Suppose that during the reading you've touched on some painful issues. You've discussed areas of the client's life that aren't working or are self-destructive. You believe these areas could improve with proper treatment. Now your task is to motivate the client to seek help. This is all the more reason not to spend hours pointing out everything wrong with the chart, but instead to concentrate on clients' current concerns. Chapter 1 discussed the wisdom of beginning by setting a contract about the issues the reading will cover. When you focus on areas of expressed discomfort, you're more likely to get active participation rather than resistance. A session, then, that deals with issues the client have identified is more likely to motivate him or her. Conversely, a session in which the astrologer hammers home every problem, flaw, and shortcoming in the entire horoscope is likely to make the client give up in despair. Now, I saw an interesting thing on social media this week that another astrologer had posted, and it was about, are you a Plutonian astrologer, a Neptunian one, or a Uranian one? And I think it was a quote from Frank Clifford's book about getting to the heart. I think it's called Getting to the Heart of the Horoscope. And the quotes were, the Plutonian astrologer that scares the pants off the clients, or the Uranian one that just even listening, or the Neptunian one that's getting drawn into their issues as well. And I thought it was quite interesting. But anyway, so outer planet transits and the associated upheavals inherently provide motivation. Timing is everything. People often live with a bad situation for years, miserable but not ready to address the problem. Many people change only when the discomfort of not changing is greater than the discomfort of changing. Periods of crisis are often associated with outer planet transits and provide a powerful impetus to transformation. Threat of loss particularly spurs growth. Even when no emergency is present, the pain outer planet transits may bring is often a turning point, a window of opportunity for modifying long-standing difficulties. These aspects often bring old dysfunctions to a critical point. Former psychological defences no longer work, so effective intervention can promote a healthier new approach. Saturn-Neptune transits come to mind, as do Pluto transits to personal points. No doubt you have your own nominees. For example, suppose a client with a Venus-Neptune conjunction in the 5th house has a long-standing pattern of painful relationships with alcoholics. Now Pluto is transiting the conjunction and he or she is embroiled in the love affair from hell. This would be an opportune time for you to suggest Al-Anon. If you've been to an Al-Anon public meeting yourself, you can speak more convincingly about how it works. Try one. Now, Al-Anon, for people that don't know, is not AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's for the families of people that have a problem with drink or alcohol, whatever you want to call it. So they're groups that are specifically designed to help the families and the friends of the person who has the alcohol issue. Outer planet transits are particularly crucial when transiting aspects repeat tough natal ones. For instance, suppose the birth chart has a Sun-Pluto square, and now transiting Pluto is opposing that Sun. When natal aspects are repeated in this way, the individual may finally get tired of some self-defeating behaviour or become ready to let go of some toxic person or situation. It's common to experience a painful bottoming out on a repetitive pattern and to decide to turn it around. The inner re-evaluation such aspects bring are a spur to growth. In the midst of the soul-searching, people are more open to suggestions about healing. Assess from their reactions how ready they are to accept a referral. If the response is cool, maybe it's too early in the transit, which usually repeats 3 times. Now, I'm going to put up on the show notes, so this is somebody that volunteered for the podcast, to share the transit rhythmogram. This is where they especially come in helpful for this repeating 3 times thing. So it might be for the first bash of the difficult transit, as Donna says, nothing much happens, but by the 3rd time it happens, they're more likely to want to make a change. So the clip of this that I'm going to show, so this is somebody who's born on 30th of January 2005. They this year, so this is 2024, we're talking about, not next year, they had 3 exact conjunctions of Pluto onto their Mercury. So while Pluto still this year was transiting through the sign of Capricorn, it was exactly conjunct to their natal Mercury, which means they must have Mercury in the sign of Capricorn. And it did it in January 24, September 24, November 24. And also they have a square, so you need to look at the Pluto on your Mercury, you can't miss that one. And then squares can be tricky. So this particular person has 3 lots of squares to the Ascendant. So if you look along, so I'm going to just put a little clip of it, so not the whole transit rhythmogram, because that's 5 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 5 years big. I'll blow it up. They've got 3 lots of Saturn square to the Ascendant, and generally speaking, it's possible, depending on what sun sign the person is, they can generally feel that. So there's 3 lots of squares from transiting Saturn in the sign of Pisces to their Ascendant. And it happened in June, July this year, and will happen again in February 2025. So you, as the astrologer, know, well, you'll know by the person as well how much they can put up with. But at some point after that 3rd swipe of the difficult transit, that might be when the person goes, oh, I've had enough of that now. Because the reason it does that is because it'll retrograde. So all the planets retrograde and do a little bit of retrograde and then go back to where they were, which is how you can have those happening 3 times. Okay, you with me? Good. So they may not accept that something has to be done until the 2nd or 3rd pass of the transit. This is another reason that the tape is vital. So do not do readings for clients without recording it for them. For the fact nobody remembers everything that you say, and 9 times out of 10 they'll remember the negative things, not the positive. So it's really a good idea to record everything that you've said and they've said, because you're talking about their chart and you give them advice and now she's talking about tapes. Nobody has tapes anymore, but I use Skype, so Skype will record and keep the recording for 3 months before it deletes, and the client themselves can right click and download it and keep the recording forever. I do audio recordings, so MP3s as well, so they can be shared with the client. I do not keep any recordings. I used to, but there's too much storage space, can't do it. So it's down to the client. They're responsible for keeping the recording if they want to. But anyway, I'm not talking about this, another thing altogether. By listening to it, clients can hear your recommendations again later when they can actually hear them. So at that moment in time, they're not hearing. It's not that they don't want to, is they're not in the right space for it yet. And this is where a passing transit can make so much difference for a person, because it depends when they come and see you. You can see this coming up in the future. Don't scare the living daylights out of them. Or they might be coming to see you halfway through this, going, oh well, there's one more whack at this and then it's all finished. Okay, so that's why we're coming up to the new year now. Most people want to know what's going to be happening for them in the upcoming year. So do point out to people when there's going to be an outer planet conjuncting a personal planet, exact conjunction now, and You don't have to scare the living daylights out of them. Just say that can be a challenging time, and depending on which house it is and what sign it's in, etc., you can just point out when it starts and when it finishes, because that's important as well. Nothing lasts forever. Hurrah. Another source of motivation is knowledge of various therapies. Many people stay in undesirable behavioural loops because they do not know that other choices are possible. Or perhaps they do know that there are other ways to react, but have no idea how to get from where they are stuck to a healthier place. By telling them about helpers who can work with them to transform uncomfortable patterns, you give hope of a better future. Finally, support and encouragement also strengthen the will to change. You support clients by showing them more evolved uses of chart placements and by aligning yourself with their better qualities. Never underestimate how significant a reading can be in clients' lives. It can restore their vision and put them back in touch with their abilities and life purpose. Many people are discouraged by the obstacles they've encountered and also suffer from low self-esteem. Some lack of a support network, or worse, significant others belittle them. They will sense if you are being falsely encouraging, but your sincere belief that they can do better is a source of hope. Sometimes the role of astrologer as cheerleader has to come first before the role of astrologer as resource person can be effective. Now, the next bit's the important bit. Understanding clients' feelings about going for help. Just handing clients a card with a name on it doesn't ensure that they're going to make that call for additional help. You have to work with their concerns about seeking treatment. Resistance to such suggestions is normal and even to some degree a sign of healthy independence. Only the very dependent are thrilled at the suggestion that they find someone to take care of them. For most people, going outside their circle of family and friends about their problems is an alien concept. Admitting to a stranger that you aren't capable of helping yourself is painful. We defend ourselves and our fragile self-love strongly against a world that is often unkind. In New York, that reluctance is not so universal. Educated people go to therapy at the drop of a hat. When you go out to eat, people all around you are talking about what they said to their therapist and recounting their therapist's brilliant interpretations. In August, when all good therapists are on vacation, you should hear the bitching and moaning. While I lived there, I ran a very successful ad each summer with the lead, "What to do while your therapist is away." Outside New York and outside this elevated circle, you have to work harder at making referrals. Men, in particular, have difficulty admitting they need help. This is even true in astrological practice. You may well find that you have about 4 female clients to every male. Due to a combination of cultural conditioning and biology, most men believe they are failures if they can't handle their problems alone. They may find the emotions addressed in therapy, like sadness, dependency, or lack of confidence, especially threatening. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole book, obviously. In the next section, she goes into people from alcoholic and dysfunctional families, and she says that a disproportionate number of astrologers also come from such families, and that might be part of their defences. She talks about Plutonians and Saturnians, etc. And then she then talks about an exercise in empathy, and she recommends that you work with another astrologer that you don't know very well, and you tell them one thing that you don't particularly talk too much about other people, and then you both share just one thing with confidentiality assured to each other and to the wider community. And then how does that feel for you to be sharing that to someone else, because that is exactly or similar to how your client is going to feel. So the next bit, when the client resists the referral. Often during the reading, clients resist acknowledging that they need treatment. so you may feel that you haven't made an impact. Know that you've planted the seed for later self-questioning and have given hope for change. I've worked with some real mules who didn't seem to appreciate my brilliant insights and inspired solutions at all! ! She's been ironic. When some of them were seen again later, it was gratifying to discover that not only had they taken hold of the suggestions, but they'd gone further than I could ever imagine. Many seemingly resistant clients come back 6 months later when the anticipated transit is hot and heavy and ask, "Now, who was that person you said I should see? I lost the phone number." This usually is more than a simple request for a piece of information. It's generally a plea for reassurance that they're doing the right thing and going for help. You might open up the discussion of their readiness at that point by asking, "Where are you now with the difficulty we discussed?" When confronted with a seemingly resistant client, plant the seed and let it go. Don't keep pushing out of a misguided wish to rescue or the Jupiterian need to be right. Rest in the knowledge that those seeds can sprout as the transit continues and the process intensifies. Many clients will find it easier to hear what you've said when they review the tape. In the privacy of their own home, without having to face you and admit the need for change, they can be less defensive. You may find, however, that you meet less resistance as you become more knowledgeable about what's available and more confident about making referrals. You'll either be more convincing or attract clients who are ready for the kind of resources you're familiar with. Like most forms of human interaction, astrological practice is governed by the laws of magnetic attraction. In operation, this means that the people who need what you have will be attracted to you even when they don't consciously know why. Therefore, as soon as you get to know about a particular source of healing, clients who need it are likely to show up. The very process of seeking out resources is likely to magnetize many new clients who need what you now have to give them. Conversely, when an astrological practice dries up or goes stagnant, it usually means the astrologer has gone stagnant and needs to find something new to offer. I thought that was quite a funny little bit at the end there. Now, one thing I learned at becoming a therapist, and which coincided to me becoming an astrologer, was don't think you can solve everything. And also, don't take on things that you know you can't do in a sort of misguided idea, I can help and heal everybody. If you find that the situation you're in with your client is too difficult for you to cope with, then tell the client, refund them all the money, give them the recording that you've had for them, and say that however you want to put it in a nice friendly way, that you're not the person to be able to help them at the moment, and it's probably better that in the UK you've got a thing called GP, that it might be better for them to go and see their GP, which is their general practitioner, which is their medical doctor. Because in your practice you're going to see so many different it depends if you're kinesthetic or visual or whatever, you're going to see, hear, work with, feel. You're going to be working with numbers of clients from all different types of backgrounds and all different types of experiences, and what you think is inverted commas right and what they think about those things are going to differ as well. And be very aware of not sharing your opinions too much, because your opinions are worthless. Okay, your experience is worthful, but not your opinion. And obviously, don't prejudge people, etc., etc. when pointing out the bleeding obvious here. But you will eventually, at some point in your career as an astrologer, come across a situation that even the client is having difficulty with. And so you need to help yourself by having supervision if you can, so another astrologer that is trained in that you can discuss your situation that your client has, because it might be bringing stuff up for you. It's quite, I would say dangerous, is that the right word? It can be quite dangerous to operate as an astrologer and never get help yourself when you are struggling with your client workload. Okay. Your practice is a reflection of you, and if you're in a bad space, you won't be able to help other people. If your clients are in bad spaces and you have no other resources for them, again, it's going to push you into a corner and make it quite difficult. The more experienced you become, the more helpful it is, but also be aware of thinking that, I can do anything now. This is my experience now, that I'll constantly come across situations with clients like, oh, okay, so that's the first time I've had that happen, and how am I going to deal with it? So there we go. Now, certain transits can happen more than 3 times. Just on this transit rhythmogram I've got for pod 1, who I call them, they've actually got 4 times that Pluto, this is coming up between 25 and at the end of 26, the Pluto is going to form a trine to their moon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, beg your pardon. So there can be some transits, and that's a nice fluffy happy one, a trine, so you don't need to do any sort of you don't need to do any rescuing or helping somebody or whatever. Don't you rescue, but you won't need to offer any solutions to anybody that's having a trine from Pluto to their moon, depending on what they've got natally in their own chart, because trines are more friendly. Trines and sextiles are as friendly as each other. Conjunctions are friendly depending on what's conjuncting which. An outer planet conjuncting a personal planet can be a challenge depending on the personal sign of zodiac they are. And Saturn transits always 900 times out of 900 times will affect a client. I can absolutely guarantee that. I am a Pisces and I'm having my 2nd Saturn transit, and I can absolutely assure you that transiting Saturn, especially when it really isn't fun. And so having those resources for yourself, this is now, if you're having a transit that is particularly challenging, find resources for yourself so that you can be supported in that particular transit. I haven't had issues with Uranus, I must say, and it's not going to repeat until I get to, zillions of years old. Anyway, so I hope you have a fab week. We're coming nearer to Christmas and the new year. If you'd like to learn astrology with me one-on-one, then ping me over an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk. I've mentioned in my newsletter, but I will mention it on the podcast as well. I'm not taking new clients for homeopathy anymore. That has now already stopped. I'm only doing follow-ups for homeopathy. I will continue my hypnotherapy practice, obviously continue my astrology practice that I've got until I pop it. But my homeopathy practice will be ceasing probably December 25. 24 now, but yes, it'll probably end next year, so I won't even be doing follow-ups. So I've done 30 something years of homeopathy. That is eventually going to stop, but I will continue with hypnotherapy and I will continue with astrology, and I might recommend to a client a homeopathic remedy for them to have. So I hope you have a fab week, and I will be back next week. We're getting near to the new year and to Christmas, assuming you celebrate that. And yesterday we've already had the solstice, which we've discussed on the Astrological Association's Instagram, so you can hear me and LAO chatting about that. If you go to Astrological Association on Instagram, there's a little chat about how that is going to be. So I'll be back next week. Bye bye now.